Hey y'all, it's your friend D, and today we're making a vintage radio. Let's get right into it by going over the list of materials and tools we'll need. The majority of the radio is made from paperboard, so anything like a cereal box will be perfect. Some leftover foam board, and you don't need much of this. This piece is actually too much for what I need, so I'll probably end up cutting just what I need off of it. Some colored computer paper and or scrapbook paper of your choice. A thin dowel rod. This one is just under 1/4 of an inch in diameter, and if you can't find one like this, you can substitute a toothpick or really thin strips of paperboard. And some small beads. I chose black ones. To hold our pieces together, you can use whatever glue you want, but I'll mainly be using tacky glue and just a little bit of hot glue. And these two items are optional. You do not need these unless you just want to use them, but I will be using a little bit of Mod Podge and gesso at the end of the project. I'll also be using some paint and a paintbrush. The first pieces we want to cut out are the front and the back to the radio. So you want to start with a rectangle that is 2 3/4 inches by 1.5 inch. So now we want to draw an arch on one side of the rectangle. So going over to one of the sides that is 1.5 inches, we want to find the very middle of that. So we just measure over 3/4 of an inch, and I've already marked the middle on this. And then we can go over to the corner here, go down 3/4 of an inch, mark there, go over to the other corner, 3/4 of an inch, and now we can just draw our arch. You should end up with something like this. If you can see, I kept mine pretty simple. So when I just overlap these pieces, you can see I just cut these corners off. And now I'm going to make 6 more of these. Once you have one cut out, you can just use this as a template to cut your other 5. So I have my 6 pieces cut out. I'm going to use 3 for the front and 3 for the back. And 2 of them, I actually carved the design into them. And these are going to be for the front. And you can make your design however you want. This is going to be where the speaker will sit. And so I'll have 3 for the front like this and 3 for the back. And I kept the speaker at the top 1 inch of my radio. Just so you can get a better idea, if I measure down from the very top, I tried not to go below 1 inch because I'm going to have some other details down here. The next piece, we're going to label this the bottom of the radio. And this piece is going to be 1.5 inches by 3/4 of an inch. And you're going to need 3 of these. Next, we need to cut out the platform, and this is different from the bottom of the radio. It needs to be cut to 1 3/4 by 1 1/4. And we're going to need 6 of these. For the top of the radio, we need a piece of paperboard that is 6.5 inches by 3/4 of an inch. And for the dowel rods, we need to cut 2 pieces that are 1 1/4 of an inch long and 1 piece that is 3/4 of an inch long. Now that we have everything cut out, we can start gluing some of the pieces together. I'm going to start with the front and the back. So I'm going to take the 2 pieces that have the speaker cutouts. I'm going to glue those together. I'm going to keep 1 piece separate. You'll find out later on that. And then these other 3 pieces, I'm going to glue these together. And like I said earlier, you can use whatever kind of glue you want to on this. I'm just using tacky glue. I think for this kind of miniature, it holds really well. So I have these 3 pieces glued together for the back, and I have these 2 pieces glued together for the front, and this leftover piece for the front. And this is where my paper will go for the speaker. So it will look like that once I get the paper trimmed. And I actually had a printable for this, and my printer decided that it hated me today, so I couldn't print it out, but I will have it available for you guys so you can print it out if you choose to. And I will just have to go with this option. I'm going to add a couple of black dots on it. I have the paper glued onto this piece, and all of these pieces I do need to let the glue continue drying. Now let's glue the 3 pieces that we have for our bottom together. Now I'm going to let this dry. Now take the 6 pieces for the platform and glue those together. Now I can let this dry, and this is a lot of layers and they are trying to pull apart. So I might have to sit this underneath a heavy book, but I also have some of these clips and these work also. Now that the glue has dried on all of these pieces, this is the perfect time to take our nail file and sand down any rough edges. I'm going to take my nail file and round the corners of my platform piece a little more. You don't have to do this, but I just want mine to have just a little bit more of a rounded edge. On the other pieces, I just smooth out the edges a little more. Now we're going to take the bottom piece and the back piece and move everything else to the side. And we're going to glue these two together, and they fit together like this. So this goes at the bottom here. And I'm going to use hot glue for this. Here are those 2 pieces glued together. Now we need that long piece that we cut at the very beginning for the top of our radio. This was the one that we cut to 6.5 inches by 3/4 of an inch. We also need some of that scrap foam board, and I cut it into smaller pieces. The only measurement that really matters for the foam board pieces is that it's 3/4 an inch long. You want it to match the width of the cardboard piece that we're going to use for the top of our radio. I need our top piece to be able to curve a little bit easier around our back piece. So I'm going to just take my fingers and kind of help it along a little bit. Just help it form into that curved shape. So now that I've helped it curve a little bit, and we only really needed to curve at the top, the sides would be okay. I want it to sit on top of the back piece and on the bottom, almost to the edge. And to help it stay that way while the glue dries, I'm going to use those foam pieces that we cut to just add some extra support behind it. So I'm going to glue those in place, and I'll show you what that looks like. So this is what it looks like from the outside. You can see this longer strip is sitting right on the top of our back piece. And from the inside, it looks like this. So it's not very pretty, but no one's going to see that. And I'm sure there's an easier way to do this, but this is how I figured out how to do it. And of course, you can always do this where you lay this, instead of on the inside, you can lay it on the outside like this, and that might be a lot easier. But I didn't want this seam to be seen from the front or the back. And of course, if you do it that way, you will have to adjust the width of this longer piece. So this is what we have so far. That's the inside, and no one's going to see this, so it doesn't matter. But if you want to make it look nicer by painting it or doing something else to it, feel free to do whatever you want to. It's your radio. And this is what the back side looks like. Now we're going to take the piece that we glued the paper onto and glue that on top. So that's glued on, and now we can set this aside. Now we can start working on the very front of the radio, and we're going to need those dowel rods that we cut. I'm going to switch back to tacky glue for this because I think the hot glue would be a little bit too messy. And I'm going to place my longer dowel rods on the sides and my shorter one at the bottom here. something like that. I have my dowel rods glued on, and I don't think my design is as centered as I would like, but I'm gonna have to make it work. And if you don't have the small dowel rods, just take a couple of strips of poster board and stack them together, and you can use that to make your designs. So this is what we should have so far, and at this point, you can go right into painting all three of these pieces. But I'm gonna cover my pieces with a layer of gesso first, and this is completely optional. You don't have to do this. My layer of gesso has dried, and for anyone who's wondering, gesso is similar to a primer. It gets your project ready for the paint. And I've mixed together a caramel color paint, and I'm gonna go in with a layer of this first, and then I'm going to follow it with some light brush strokes of this deep brown from the Dollar Tree. My paint is dry and I really like the look of it. So now I'm going to start adding the small accessories to this piece. So for our front panel, I'm going to add these 3 beads as our control knobs, and they're just going to be positioned down here at the bottom. So I'm going to glue those in place. And I did finally get my printer to work. So I was able to print out the dial for my radio. And I want to give a quick shout out to Haley at Michael's. I ran there really quick, guys, while my paint was drying. And she helped me find a substitute just in case I couldn't get my printer to work. We were looking through the stickers and she was just so helpful to me. And we couldn't find anything quite like this, but we found something close. But when I got home, I played around with my printer a little bit and I did get it to print this out okay. It's still not printing the paper for this section that well, but the printout that I will have available for you guys will look like this. It will have the paper for the speaker section and it will have this dial on it. But I'll just glue this in place here. And as a last addition, I decided to take some more paperboard and cut out a little ring to put around the dial, and I added these little stickers just as an extra detail, and I just used these little gem stickers. I got these at Michael's, but you can also find things like this at the Dollar Tree, and it will sit on top of the dial like that. The glue on the smaller accessories are close to being dry, so I'm going to go ahead and assemble our 3 larger pieces. I'm going to attach the front piece, and then we're going to attach this piece onto our platform. Here's the finished radio, and I think it came out great. It's a really good size for the dolls, and if you decide to make this radio, keep in mind you can customize it to look however you want. I think the finished product is pretty good, and even though I ran into a few hiccups, which you guys who have been with me for a while, you know, whenever I do a build or a tutorial, there's always a few hiccups, so it's to be expected. But I think I did really good on this one. I like the coloring of the paint. It looks pretty close to a faux wood to me. I think my painting has gotten better. So yeah, I'm proud of this one. So my friends, that's all I have for you today. Please let me know what you think about the radio. And if you have any questions about anything in this video, please let me know in the comments below and I'll try my best to answer your questions. And if you like this video, please give it a thumbs up, subscribe, and turn on your notifications. I'll see you next time, my friends. Bye-bye.